We've got some messed up ideas about creativity in this culture. And if you've followed me or taken one of my classes, you have probably already heard me go off on this subject. I find it a very frustrating concept that we accept in this culture. If you meet somebody at a party and you are an artistic person and you are talking about your creative process and then you turn the conversation over to the other person, it is very common for them to say, "I'm just not a creative person." And we accept that. That's the end of the conversation. We just, okay, and move on to the next conversation. If you were to meet someone at a party and they were vulnerable enough to tell you that they don't read, that they can't read, you would never think to tell them or accept that they were just not a reader. "I'm sorry, I'm just not a reader." If they were to say that, you would automatically start talking to them about how it's completely possible, and you would have resources. You may even yourself volunteer to help with them, because reading is a skill. When we think of creativity, we think of it as something that is given, that you are born with. You're either a creative person or you're not a creative person. And I kind of think that's some BS. Creativity is a skill. It is a skill that you can learn. Now, certainly you don't have to learn it, but it is not inaccessible, like often our culture tells us and like we accept. Creativity is something that can be practiced. It can be learned. It can be nurtured. How many of you took piano lessons when you were a kid? Now, some of you went on maybe to play piano professionally. Some of you never played piano again. Some of you enjoy playing piano for yourself or with your family, okay? When you started to learn how to play piano, you played the scales. You went donk, 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 donk. And you did that over and over again until your parents wanted to murder you. Then you learned how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you learned that. And then you moved on to a more complex song, and on and on. And if it was your passion, then you went and studied at a conservatory and you practiced hundreds of hours. Now, somehow with creativity, we don't think it works like that. We think you sit down and you decide to be creative and you are or you aren't. Without skills, without practicing, it's so easy for people to try and it's frustrating and you give it up. Creativity is something that is practiced. It is learned. You sit down and whatever medium you choose, you sit down and you do it. And you're bad at it in the beginning. You're playing scales. You're making marks that are ugly and unattractive. And they are valuable, just like those scales are valuable, because they are the fundamentals. You have to go through that place to get to the mastery. That's essential to being creative. And we just really want to reject that idea. We want to sit down and instantly be creative. We're either creative or we're not. Creativity is a skill. It is a skill that I believe anyone can learn to use.